see us as a population? Where is the Black population, particularly in the United States of America today?
Well, when I look at African people, I look at us holistically. So I look at our global situation because our situation is certainly global. I know that we have been scattered throughout the world, okay, but all African people are facing the same global dilemma. So when I look at African people, again, I look at it globally. And of course, if I'm looking at it globally, of course, I'm including Africans here in North America. Our situation, to put it blank, straight with no chaser, is dire. That is our present global situation. We're in a very dire situation globally. And it is primarily because we have decided to ignore many of the greatest thinkers, leaders, teachers that have come before us and given us clear instructions on what needs to be done. And for the most part, those leaders and teachers we have ignored. For the most part, we have ignored those leaders and teachers. We have opted to follow and support those who we have come to regard as being our leaders and scholars. We have come to follow and support those who are telling us what we want to hear, as opposed to the things that we need to hear to get out of the horrible global condition that we're in. And I want to put in here very quickly that our situation is solvable. We need to be clear about that. No matter how difficult or deadly, dangerous, and all of that our situation may seem to be, it is nevertheless solvable if we know and do the required work. See, that's the key. And I always add know and do, because it's not enough for us to know what the problems are. There's plenty of us who know what the problems are. In fact, the overwhelming majority of African people globally know what the problems are. We know that we have a multitude of foreign enemies who have targeted us for domination and control. We have Europeans, we have Arabs who have taken a third of our continent in Africa, Northern Africa. We have Jews, and the latest kid on the block is the Chinese. And all of these nations have targeted African people for dominance. All of them. And we're not addressing the central problems that has made it possible for us to come under foreign dominance, the global foreign dominance that we're under. We're not addressing what I call the root cause problems that has created the situation that we're in today. Many of us, and you mentioned the book, which is actually my flagship book. I wrote that book over 30 years ago. Tribalism, Mysticism, Primitivism, and the Rise of Genocide Against the African World. I wrote that book, excuse me, because those three things, tribalism, mysticism, and primitivism, are the core root problems that has spawned virtually all of the other problems that we face in the world as a people. Those three core problems, and they are actually social diseases. Tribalism is a social disease. When you have a nation of people who divides themselves against themselves, they are in a diseased state. When you have a nation of people who practices mysticism, which is a state wherein a nation of people begin to embrace mystical concepts and ideas about how life operates, and they begin to live their lives according to these mystical ideas. In other words, this is when mysticism is when a people put superstitious thinking before rational and responsible thinking. And this is a critical problem throughout the African world, not just in our motherland. This is a problem that exists among African people all over the planet. And then there's primitivism, which is a horrible, horrible social disease. You think tribalism is bad. You think mysticism is bad. Primitivism is horrible. That is when a nation of people falls into a state of chronic underdevelopment. And this is what you see when you look at the African world today. We are chronically underdeveloped in relationship to the other nations who rule the world. So you find African people living in a state of total dependence and total vulnerability to other nations. Primarily those four nations that I just mentioned: Europeans, Arabs, Jews, and increasingly the Chinese. So we've reached a state as a people whereby we depend upon other people to supply us with virtually everything that we need, want, and use in life. We depend on other people to supply us with, I just use this as an example, with the technology that we're using right now. These are not our computer systems. These are not our technologies that we've put in place, that we have produced from earth to finished product. These are not our technologies. We don't produce the cars, the trucks, the trains, the airplanes, the weapons. We don't produce any of the modern things that we use in life. We literally, and I'm not saying figuratively, I said we are literally, as a people, living in the Stone Age. This is what you're looking at when you look at African people. Oh yeah, we have modern things, but they're not modern things that we produce. These are modern things that we buy from other nations. We buy these things from other nations. We're not the producers of them. We don't own them, produce them, control them, none of that. We talk about, as a people, we love to talk about this whole business of entrepreneurship, being entrepreneurs, getting money. We think that money is, man, that's top dog right there. If you get yourself some money, you really into something. No, you're not. No, you're not. First of all, money is nothing more than an inanimate object. It doesn't even produce itself. So what makes you and I think that we're going to achieve power simply because we have a bunch of inanimate objects in our pocket or in our so-called bank account or wherever you keep this money at, these inanimate objects? Money doesn't produce anything, again, not even itself. So see, power and wealth does not come from money. Oh no. Power and wealth comes from a people's own production and protection capability. That's where power and wealth comes from. See, that's where that comes from. It comes from your production, your independent production and protection capability. Because even the money itself, when we talk about Europeans and we talk about all of the power that they have, and they do have power, and I mean serious power, not pretend, not make believe, they have real power. And they have taken over enough land from other nations to prove that they have power, real power. When we talk about Europeans and the power that they have, and most of us, we like to reference their money and try to assign their power to the fact that they have all this money. Well, the reality is they have all of this money because they are the producers of the money. So they produce a whole bunch of their own money. Money is nothing more than another product. Oh, sure, it is used as a medium of exchange so that people can buy and sell things, of course. But it still is nothing more than a produced product. That's what money is. It's another product like a shoe, a phone, a DVD, anything. That's what money is. It's a product. So when you're talking about Europeans and the power that they have, and you assign it to their money, well, what you're doing is you're actually lying to yourself and confusing yourself, because Europeans do not derive their power from their money. Oh, no. Europeans derive their power from their production capability, which includes their money. You see how that goes? Their power, the power of money, is based solely upon the power of the people who own, control, produce, and assign value to that money, and are in a position to protect that money. So see, that's where European power lies. It lies in them, their production and protection capability. Yes, sir.
Apologize. Some would argue we have to start somewhere. You know, that's the argument that will be put forth. Well, if we don't begin to accumulate money through various means, then we won't have access to building power. What would you have to say in response to that sentiment?
Okay. Well, see, again, money is not a good starting place for us. We have to use money in their society because we're under their dominance. So of course you're going to have, until you and I get out from under their dominance, you and I have no other alternative but to use their money until we get out from under their dominance. How do you get out from under their dominance? Oh, now you're asking the right question. What are the things that we must do to get out from under their dominance? Now, you can dismiss money because money is not going to get you out from under their dominance. Oh, no. The things that we've got to invest in to get out from under the foreign dominance of other nations, be it Europeans, Arabs, Jews, Chinese, or any other nation, we've got to become fully invested in loving ourselves. That's our first investment. And I said fully invested in self-love. Then we've got to become fully invested in thoroughly uniting among ourselves. Those two things that I just named, that's at the top of the list of what nations must do to achieve power and wealth in life. They have to love themselves and they have to unite among themselves. Neither one of those things do you and I need money to do. as important as those things are, you and I don't need money to love ourselves. You and I don't need any money to unite among ourselves. The next thing that you and I need to do is properly govern ourselves. Now you're talking about selecting leaders and scholars and holding them accountable.
Now,
because
I'm glad I'm sorry. I'm glad you mentioned that, because with the question of unity, there's so much variation in what we hold as values, what we hold as ideologies or philosophies. You know, we're Christian, Muslim, Jew, Hebrew. We're socialists. We're leftists. We're conservative. How do we determine the direction and what that leadership should look like? Are we trying to build a mass collective of people under one leadership and central ideology, or do we take everything together, unify it, or do we need to draw some lines in the sand, so to speak?
Well, for us to unite, it's no question we're gonna have to draw some lines in the sands, because we're all over the place. So it ain't. There's no way that you and I are going to unite and we are all over the place. Half of us, I mean, just like you rattle off all of these separate camps that we done decided that we're going to associate with and connect ourselves with and become a part of, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's no way that you and I are going to be able to unite without establishing common directions and common goals among ourselves. That is key to nations establishing viable, functional unity among themselves. We study at the African World Research Institute, of which I'm the director. We study a thing called a science called social anatomy. And social anatomy is the scientific study of how nations are structured and how they function. That's what social anatomy teaches. So see, we've got to apply some science to solving these horrible problems that are destroying us as a people globally. Okay, so yeah, we've got to unite, and we've got to draw some lines in the sand for sure. It's no question about that. Many of us have got to lock into a principle of understanding that we all, every single one of us, have got to commit ourselves to the highest truth or the best way of doing things. We've got to sit down among ourselves and hammer out the best way for us to solve our problems as a people globally. We've got to do that. Okay? So that means when you talk about sitting down and coming to common directions and common goals, that means you can't come into the meeting thinking that it's either my way or the highway, or it's either gonna be what I say or I'm withdrawing from the meeting. I ain't a part of that. Oh, you and I never. Or this is another one of our favorites. We need to just agree to disagree. Oh no, that's what's got us in the hellhole that we in today. You and I can't continue to go through life agreeing to disagree. Hell, we'll never get anything done agreeing to disagree. No, you and I have got to come to common directions and common goals. We've got to draw up some common documents that all of us, I said all of us, put a capital A on that. All of us have got to agree with and abide by. And we've got to enforce those documents, those life principles. We got to enforce them. Okay. When the
Yeah.
United States of America was established, I just want to put this in right quick. When the United States of America was established, one of the first things they did, I mean, you know, after a time, and they started working with each other. After a time, they recognized that what we've got to do, we've got to establish a constitution that all of us are going to agree with, abide by, and enforce among ourselves. This is what we have got to do. It's no question about it. African people are failing to do that critical work. We're failing to establish common directions and common goals, common documents that all of us agree with. You hear African people all of the time talking about, well, brother, you know, African people ain't no monolithic people. We ain't, you know, you talking about us being monolithic. Hold it, Negro. Europeans are monolithic. That's why they rule the world. They have common directions, common goals. They think as one people. They move as one people. That's why they rule. The Chinese, they monolithic. The only one who's walking this earth thinking that they don't have to be monolithic, meaning they don't have to be unified, because that's essentially what monolithic means. It means all of us are on the same page, doing the same things for our own collective best interests. That's a monolithic people. That's what a monolithic people looks like. African people have decided that we don't want to be that. What we want to be is we want to be everybody. That's why you see us all over the map. That's also the reason why you see us getting nothing done for our own collective best interests. And we need to be clear that any nation of people who's under another nation of people's foreign domination and control are not free by no stretch of the imagination. They're slaves. Any nation of people who depends on another nation of people for their food, clothing, housing, education, jobs, you can throw in their money. Any nation of people who's totally dependent upon another nation of people for virtually everything that they use in life, they're slaves. They're not free and independent. I ran across an article. I just want to throw this in right quick. Ran across an article about this African president. He was Kenya's president, President William Ruto. And he was complaining about the treatment of African presidents going on trips abroad to these Western countries. Oh yeah, he was complaining about it. He was saying that when they went to Queen Elizabeth's burial, that they stacked they placed all of the African leaders in buses. They stacked them in buses like school children. This is what he was saying. And he was saying that that's not right to be loading African leaders into school buses. Well, the reality is that's how slave masters treat their slaves. That's what slaves have. That's what you got coming. You're not no dignitary like, let's say, President Biden or one of the president of France or some other European country. We're not going to treat you like you're our equal. Slaves are not equal to their slave masters. Never have been and never will be. What makes us think that Europeans are going to treat us as equals when they can see that we're not equal to them. Why would they do that? No nation who is powerful is going to treat a powerless nation as an equal. That's not reality. That's fantasy thinking. That comes out of this religious mumbo jumbo that we are fed by our enemies and our so-called leaders and scholars. So see, we've got to get out of that mindset of thinking that we're going to be treated equal just for equality's sake. That's not the way life operates. Life don't operate like that. Oh, no. You want to be treated with respect, then the first thing you have to do is show that you have respect for you, for yourself. If I don't see you demonstrating any respect for yourself, what makes you think I'm going to respect you? If I can look at you and I see that I'm feeding you, I'm housing you, I'm clothing you, I'm educating you, I'm employing you, I'm healing you when you get sick, why the hell would I treat you as my equal? I'm not. That's all it is to it. And I may tell you that you're my equal, but my treatment of you is the real litmus test of how I really feel about you. And that's what he found out. Notice I said his name is William. And in the picture in the article, he's wearing a European suit. So wait a minute, Negro, you wearing my name, you wearing my clothing, and you sitting up here thinking I'm going to treat you as my equal? See, when Biden and the rest of the dignitaries from other countries who have power, when Biden went over there to the Queen's burial, they put him in an armored presidential limousine. Yeah, that's what they rode around in. The dignitaries with power. You all are not powerful. You're slaves. And all slaves are boys and girls. That's why I herded you onto the school buses. Yeah, that's what you get on. You get on a bus and come on through. That's how you do that.
I think that's a common problem, is that we haven't properly. That's our notice for our time right there. Actually, I'm gonna ask this last question.
Okay.
Well, make a statement then question.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a common problem that we have, is that we don't identify what we want. You know, we use words like sovereignty and liberation and nationhood and freedom from oppression. But I really don't think that most of us, especially heading a lot of these movements, or just a lot of these people who have the followings, aren't really identifying what the goal is or what the vision of success looks like.
Precisely. You hit the nail right on the head. When the goal that the entire African world should be moving toward and must be moving towards, because not only are we globally enslaved, presently we're globally targeted for annihilation because our usefulness as slaves has run out. Slavery is an obsolete institution in the world today. Don't nobody need no slave labor. So see, you can pack up your slave gear right that ain't no, yeah, okay, that ain't your trump card that you can throw no more. We need liberation. And the reason why African people are targeted for annihilation, incidentally, let me put this in quickly, is because, again, slave labor is obsolete. Why is it obsolete? Because technology and automation has made enslavement obsolete. I got machines to do the stuff that I used to have y'all doing. I don't need you no more. You like an old shoe. So what we need today is liberation. What is liberation? And this is critical. Liberation means a nation of people possessing total freedom and independence from all foreign domination and control. That's what liberation means. Again, liberation means a nation of people possessing total freedom and independence from all foreign domination and control. This, of course, means that said nation must become, number one, independent producers of everything that they use in life, from earth or raw material to finished product. Number two, it means that said nation must also be skilled fighters in all areas of modern combat and warfare, be it on land, sea, air, cyberspace, outer space, or any other venue. These are the things you got to have if you're talking about you want liberation. See, that's the reason why you got us talking liberation talk, but we don't want to put in the work. Oh, yeah, we'll talk liberation talk like you have some of us today talking about how much of a man we are, how much of a warrior we are. Men provide for themselves. Men also protect themselves and their families and their nation. And if you see a nation of men who are not providing for themselves nor protecting themselves, they're not men. They're a bunch of boys parading around pretending to be men. And this is the problem with the African world. Next, number three, said nation must maintain continuous modernization among themselves, especially in the fields of science, technology, engineering, machinery, and weaponry, modern stuff. Number four, very important, nations who are talking about liberation, they must become the sole builders and administrators over their own modern and independent civilization and culture in the world, and it must be in their own land. You're talking about liberation? That's what you're talking about. No nation of people is going to achieve liberation in somebody else's house. I can tell you that without fear of contradiction. So all this nonsense talk about us thinking that we're going to become a nation within a nation, that's bull crap, period. You and I ain't going to become no nation in nobody else's house. No rational and responsible nation is going to let you and I come into their house and set up our own thing in their house. No, you not. The only foolish people in history that did something stupid like that was you and I up in ancient Egypt. That's what we did. We let the foreigners come in, and the rest is history. They kicked our butt, took our land, and look at us today. Scattered us throughout the world. So this is the work that has to be done. So when you talk about liberation, that's what you're talking about. Total freedom and independence from all foreign domination and control. And if it's not that, you're not talking liberation. What you're doing is you just talking.
Well, Baba Shakari, that is definitely, as the saying goes, some strong medicine. And we're going to wind up here. But I would definitely like to follow up with you and do another talk about where do we begin individually and collectively. As a,
yes, sir.
As a husband and a father, what direction should our family be going in today? What